Start again? It's 6:30 still, and I'd like to call to order the June 13th, 2024 meeting of the Architectural Review Board to order. First on the agenda, approval of minutes from the meeting of May 9, 2024. Are there any comments from the commissioners?
No, I'll make a motion to approve.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. First up on the agenda, 577 Hawley Lane, modification of site plan approval, review of petition to the Zoning Commission by Par One Development Company LLC to modify the ARB approval for 577 Hawley Lane property, which was previously heard and approved on April 9th, 2020. Attorney Knott, I guess.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, ladies, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Barry Knott. I'm a lawyer with the firm of Knott & Dunn, with offices at 1656 Main Street, Stratford. I'm here this evening on behalf of Par One Development LLC, 577 Hawley Lane. Jim Fitzpatrick, the managing member of that entity, is with me. Now, this property is on the site of an abandoned single-family house, which was subsequently used by the fire department for training exercises and then demolished by my client. The property is located immediately to the north of a medical building at 495 Hawley Lane and is located 2 parcels to the north of the North Town Center Shopping Center, also known as the Big Y Shopping Center. It's directly across the street from one of the entrances to the Marriott Hotel and another office building located adjacent to the Marriott. Further up Hawley Lane's Torrance Huntington Road, our property is owned by the state of Connecticut. 2 condominium developments, one consisting of 9 units and the other one, Hawley Glen, consisting of 40 units. Submitted with the application was an 11 by 17 as-built site plan as well as architectural plans. The folder I've given to each of you tonight contains a copy of each of those 2 sets of plans, as well as other exhibits I will be making reference to during the course of my presentation. In January of 2017, the Zoning Commission changed the zoning designation of this property from residential to limited business. Limited business is considered a business zone because the permitted uses in a limited business zone are all commercial uses. However, because it's a limited business zone, special case approval and site plan approval is required before approval. In January 12, 2018, the Inland Wetlands and Watercourses Commission approved our application. Finally, on January 18, 2018, the Zoning Commission approved the special case application and a soil and erosion control application for exactly the same use and exactly the same site plan we are proposing now. That February 18th special case approval required that a building permit be taken out within 18 months of the date of approval, or the approval would expire. Unfortunately, because of what was going on in the economy at that time and the advent of COVID, we did not make the 18-month deadline. So we had to go back to the Zoning Commission for special case approval all over again, and they referred the application to you for a hearing. And we appeared before you on April 9th, 2020 and April 15th, 2020. They were remote hearings at that time because of COVID. Exhibit 1, now the 2 maps that are on top, one is a site plan, the other one are the new architecturals, okay? If you go beyond them, you'll see Exhibit 1 is a copy of your approval letter sent to the chairman of the Zoning Commission on April 16, 2020. Exhibit 2 is a copy of the zoning approval letter from 2018. And Exhibit 3 is a copy of the zoning approval letter from 2020. Please note that both of these latter letters from the Zoning Commission, from Jay Habansky and the Zoning Commission, were addressed to me, not to my client. Therefore, we're here tonight because of a mistake that I had made, all right? And I want to apologize to all of you for requiring you to come out on this lovely summer night for this one particular hearing. The reason why I screwed this thing up is because if you look at the approval letter from 2018 from the Zoning Commission, it did not make any reference to complying with ARB stipulations. And that's because I don't believe we appeared at ARB in 2018. I have no record in my file of having appeared here in 2018. We did in 20, okay? So the zoning letter of approval in 2018 doesn't make any mention of ARB conditions, all right? I sent this 2018 approval letter to Fitzpatrick after I received it from Jay, all right? However, when I received the 2020 approval letter from Jay, which does require the applicant to comply with the ARB recommendations, as you can see from looking at it, I have no recollection of sending that letter to my client. I have no and I have no memoranda in my file that indicates that I emailed it to him. So my belief is that I had sent them the 2018 letter. The 2020 approval in our minds was a technicality because we blew the 18-month deadline. I get the 2020 letter from Jay that has the ARB steps attached to it, and I don't believe I sent it to my client. So my negligence caused this misunderstanding, and I want to apologize to you because of that. Now, if you look at Exhibit 1, which is your approval letter, you will see that I numbered each of the bullet points, 1 to 12, I think it is. Exhibits 1, 4, 5, 6, and 7, 1, 4, 5, 6, and 7, have been complied with by the applicant. 1, 4, 5, 6, and 7 on Exhibit 1. Number 2, condition number 2 has been complied with except for the installation of the 30-inch clock. And the 30-inch clock is on order, and we expect it to be received within the next month or so, at which time it will be installed. Number 3 requires the body color to complement the surrounding area. Now, what does that mean? In Jimmy's email to Susmitha, dated April 13th, 2020, which you make reference to in your approval letter, Exhibit 1. He says to Susmitha, I will be choosing a building body color that I feel will fit in or complement the surrounding area. Choose a stone below the window to complement the body color. Choose a trim accent color to contrast with the entire color scheme. My point in raising this issue is that color is a subjective quality. What looks nice to me doesn't look nice to somebody else. It's subjective, okay? As far as number 8 is concerned, I draw your attention to Exhibits 4, 6, and 7. You can see from Exhibit 4 that the HVAC equipment is very visible, but it shows that it has been installed on a flat roof to the rear of the building. Exhibit 6 shows a street view of the restaurant. By the way, the flat roof for the HVAC was one of your conditions, okay? Exhibit 6 shows that a view of the restaurant traveling towards Nichols Avenue, that the HVAC equipment is not visible at all from the street. Exhibit 7 is a view of the restaurant traveling towards Huntington Road, and none of the HVAC equipment can be seen to the rear of the building except a slight protrusion. You can see a slight protrusion of one of the HVAC pieces behind the cupola. That's the only piece of HVAC that's available that can be seen heading towards Huntington Road. Condition 9, I draw your attention, which shows utility meters. That's where you say you got to hide the utility meters from view. Exhibit 5 shows that the utility meters are hidden by shrubbery in front of the building. And as those shrubs grow, the utility meters will become more invisible. Now, condition 10 talks about a pump chamber for a pump out system for sewer connection. As it turns out, the sewers in the road here are 8 feet below grade, so we didn't need a pump-out system, and therefore that's a non-entity. Condition 11, Fitzpatrick had numerous telephone conversations and meetings on site, probably 4 or 5 meetings on site with Kelly Kerrigan. And the reason why she was involved so much with him regarding landscape is because this is a 3.5-acre site, 3.5 acres. The only part of the site that's developable is the front half acre where this restaurant sits, okay? The back of it is all wetlands. So when we went into the Wetland Commission to get approval for this, they advised us and advised Kelly that they wanted Kelly and my client to get together and figure out what kind of landscaping is going to be appropriate to meld well with the wetlands plantings that should be immediately adjacent to an area of significant inland wetlands. As far as condition number 12 is concerned, the pylon sign, we're not doing a pylon sign. The only signage on this building is going to be on the front as it faces Hawley Lane, and on the right where the parking lot is and the front door is. So there'll be 2 wall signs on the building, no pylon. Now, the most significant issue here is the reorientation of the building. If you look at the original architectural plans that were submitted to you and which you reviewed back in 2020, the kitchen was in the rear and the patron's seating area was facing Hawley Lane, okay? When Jimmy got on site and started to do site work and looked around and was there every day as cars were whizzing by on Hawley Lane, he decided that the most significant that a significant gain to the operation of the building and its aesthetic appearance as far as the patrons of the restaurant inside the restaurant was concerned is to reorient the building so that the kitchen goes from behind the building in the rear to the front of the building. We now got the kitchen out on the Hawley Lane side of the building because he's looking at cars whizzing by up and down Hawley Lane, and he's saying to himself, having seating overlooking Hawley Lane makes no sense when we've got this beautiful patio and fire pit and all the other stuff that he built there on the side of the building adjacent to the wetlands, especially given the fact that significant and a very attractive landscaping, roses and things like that, are going to be installed at the request of Kelly. So because of that, he flipped it from kitchen in the back, patrons in the front, to patrons in the back, kitchen in the front. And that's the reason why the orientation of the building changed from 2020 to now, all right? For these reasons, I acknowledge that the finished product, as you're looking at the plans now, are different than what was approved in 2012 because of this flipping of the building. I also submit that all of the conditions of ARB approval has been satisfied. We can talk about the color of the building, but appropriate to the area, I don't know what that means. He thought dark blue was or whatever. So, I mean, it's subjective. I apologize for the negligence on my part in failing to send him the 2020 approval letter. And this project has been in the works. I started working on this project in 2017, all right? That's 8 years ago he's been working on this thing. And now the building's up. He's 96, 97% complete. He's got to wrap it up. We have an appearance before the Zoning Commission on July 26th. We're hoping for approval from the Zoning Commission on July 26th, but he's got to finish this restaurant and get open by this summer. He plans on opening this summer. I mean, I don't know if any of you have been up there and seen what the outside of this building looks like with the fire pit and the stone. I mean, it's really magnificent. So is it different than that which you approved in 2020? Yes. Is it better? I think so. Everybody that looks at it loves it, that goes by. And everybody's waiting for him to open. We get calls all the time, when is this restaurant going to open? And that's the story.
All set?
Yep.
Okay. So this is obviously unique, and the rest of the commissioners don't really know this, but we're gonna do this a little differently. Attorney Knott, you've been here plenty of times before, and Mr. Fitzpatrick, maybe perhaps only once, I'm not sure. Typically, I'll have the other commissioners kind of say their piece first, and I will bring up the rear last. And typically, most of the points that I might bring up have already been brought up. But in this case, I'm going to speak first, and I'm not going to be speaking about the specifics necessarily of the design. I am going to then allow the commissioners to individually speak to that, but I'm going to speak more to this specific situation that we find ourselves in today.
With your approval, I'm going to sit over there at that table because I have trouble standing up.
That's fine. Wherever you'd like to be.
Thank you.
Bring a chair for you?
No, there's a chair right here and a desk. No, I'm good, Susan.
I mean, I would prefer to be able to see you, Attorney Knott, that's all. I mean, you can sit in the pit, you can sit wherever you'd like.
Oh, yeah, I'll sit in the pit. Yeah, good idea. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. So as I was saying, we're going to operate this a little differently, and I'm going to speak first, and I'm going to be speaking to the situation we find ourselves in as opposed to the specifics of the design. And I'm going to say our piece here, and then I'm going to ask the commissioners to restrict their comments to what we are really supposed to be here for, which is this design. So, Attorney Knott, I appreciate the fact that you're falling on the sword here, for lack of a better word, for the miscommunication as to what happened here. I actually, that may or may not have been what really happened. I don't know. I do know that Mr. Fitzpatrick had sent in a letter, and that became part of our response and part of the approval. But at the end of the day, Mr. Fitzpatrick, as I'm sure you know, it is your responsibility to follow through with everything that the town puts forth as the requirements of the project. So, and knowing that you have been developing for a long time in many area towns, I believe, I am also quite sure that you are aware that changing all of this was not consistent with what a zoning approval and certainly an architectural review board approval would be. Now, we are an advisory board. We put forth our recommendations to the zoning commission, and it is under their purview to decide which part of our recommendations is included in the conditions of approval. So we reviewed a building, and Attorney Knott went through kind of a point-by-point response, but that was a review of a different building. So there may be different comments that we would have. And I think that, it's unfortunate we get to the point where you're 96% done and trying to complete, and now it's, please, forgive us when I think, again, I don't know this, but certainly I could imagine a scenario where you realize that you were doing things that were not part of the approval, and you could have intercepted this long ago and come before us, come before the zoning commission, not at the, 2 minutes before the deadline, but perhaps 6 months before the deadline. I mean, we have watched this, and I've seen the building just kind of driving by, and like, boy, that doesn't look like what we're, I'm wondering what's going on. Not my job to go around and report and be the inspector of all these things. So, you put us, I think you put us and you put the town in a very unfortunate circumstance. And I think that you're asking us here today to kind of, oh, it's already built. We understand it. Now it's already built. So, okay, what do we do now? Because, however it happened, we got to this point in a way that wasn't proper. And so it's a very dangerous precedent, right? I'm sure you can understand that, what does that mean? Does that mean someone could get approval from our board and other boards and then just go out and kind of build whatever they like, regardless of the outcome of this, regardless of what everyone might think of this second design, all right? You have taken the liberty to change the approved design and by the way, added another little building. We have no idea what that's going to look like, a little storage building, I'm told, or whatever that is. And regardless of how successful it might be, by this board, although we're just advisory, or other town commissions, we are setting a precedent that, yeah, okay, Stratford, you guys we'll get approval, and then we're just going to come in, and we can change it however we see fit, and we'll come in, the month before you're going to open up, and we're going to say, oh, please, please, we need this. We know we didn't follow the rules, however you want to phrase it, and it would be not any less desirable, but perhaps more understandable if I knew the two of you gentlemen both hadn't spent a lifetime in this world and in this field. So it's no matter whose communication issue it was, I find it very disconcerting that you come to us today asking us to say everything's fine, although we're just advisory. You potentially have a bigger hill to climb, maybe, I don't know that, with boards that actually have to vote on your approval. So, we don't have the ability to stop a project on the ARB. Like I said, we're advisory. We're going to make our recommendations to the Zoning Commission, and they will decide ultimately how to proceed with this. So, I think disappointed, I think, would be a good adjective to describe how I'm feeling about this. To get to the point where we are at this moment, I think is just unfortunate, and I hope that, that further development by yourself or others or other clients that Attorney Knott represents, whatever they may be, I hope they hear this commentary and they take that to heart the next time, they're going to present us one thing and then build entirely something else, because, it's not good. It's just not a good way to do business, and it's, you can say it's a little disrespectful. You can say a lot of things about what that means to this board and to the other, and to the Zoning Commission, who will ultimately, they have the voting power on this thing. So, what I'm going to ask the commissioners to do, and I'm going to give a few brief instructions, is we're not going to talk about this part of it again, all right? I, as chairman, have said our piece about what we feel about how this is happening here. So I'm going to ask the commissioners to then take these photographs, and we're going to make recommendations on this building as if it's not built yet. So understand what that means. We are going to come up with our recommendations for this building, and we are going to pass them on to the Zoning Commission. We are advisory. It is up to the Zoning Commission then to decide whether or not they will put our recommendations as part of the conditions of approval. I can tell you, you were one of the initial projects that we had heard. I'm hoping that we have a stronger relationship with zoning, and I think Attorney Knott will confirm for you that oftentimes what we see now is that part of the zoning approval is strict adherence with the recommendations of the Architectural Review Board. We are going to make recommendations this evening as if this is the first time we've ever seen this building, and that these photographs are pictures of a model. And we're going to make recommendations about how we think this building should or could be better. And we're going to try not to be look, fair point about the blue collar, and we're learning too. Maybe that wasn't the most strict and concise recommendation we can make. And we're getting better at that. And tonight, I hope we're going to be concise, but that's how we're going to approach this. So you are going to leave here tonight with some recommendations that we will pass on to the zoning commission. So that's my piece. I'm going to ask
Could I
each
just
of-
comment on one of the things you said a minute ago?
Absolutely.
All right. Regarding taking the liberty to change the design. He built the Northtown Center, and he built the 2 medical buildings on either side of the entrance of the Northtown Center. I have represented the owners of the Dock Shopping Center, the shopping center where the Home Depot is. I got that zoned. I got the dock zoned. I got the one across Ferry Boulevard zone where the Marshalls is. Those 3 shopping centers and his shopping centers, I did the zoning on all of that stuff. This is the first time either one of us have ever had this problem. And I've been doing it for 50 years, he's been doing it for 40 years. But of all the projects that I've been involved in, and all the projects that he's been involved in, which are pretty substantial projects in this town, this is the first time we ever screwed up like this. So I understand what you're saying, but I just wanted you to be aware of what I'm telling you.
I appreciate that, Attorney Knott, and it did, I guess, factor into how what I was going to say, knowing the long history you have in the field, in the town, et cetera, et cetera. But really what it came back to was that I felt strongly, because this is about, precedent setting, really. And I just wanted to make it, clear, crystal, and concise of how we felt about this, and then how we're going to approach the recommendations and the commentary we receive from each of the commissioners. Now, I'm going to turn this now over to the commissioners, and I'm going to ask that they keep their comments to the building in front of us. Happens to be built, but the photographs of this building and the plans and everything else, we're going to reserve our comments for those, and we're going to see where that leads us. And unless you two have something else to share or to converse directly to me, I think we're going to put that part of us, but this part of the meeting behind us, and we're going to focus on this building, and we're going to make some recommendations, and you will go forward with zoning, and it will be up to them to how much to heart they take our recommendations after that. So that being said, everyone is clear, I think, the 4 of you guys, of how I'd like to proceed on this. So, Tom Sharkowitz, you usually bat lead off, so we're going to leave you in the lead off position. Please.
Obviously, this is going to be difficult, reviewing a building that's already been built. I can see from the photographs that you were excited about this building. It shows that you did put thought into it. Unfortunately, as Jamie said, it bypassed our view. So I drive by this at least once a week. I go to the Big Y every week. That's my grocery store. And I think the west elevation is the most disappointing part. That is really the street view. It's what people who are not actively using the diner, but appreciating it on their way to and fro. And I guess one of my recommendations is if we could change the windows on the west elevation that look into the dining room. Holly Lane elevation, yep. So there are 3 windows that look into the dining room. They currently all have the same head height, which I think is important to keep, because I'm not proposing changing the windows in the kitchen. But if possibly a 3rd bay to each window could be added so that it drops down for more and then additionally, to jazz up this unfortunate elevation. There needs to be some plantings. I don't know if there are plantings planned. I know it says lawn area in front of the building, but I mean, anything we can do to more or less hide this elevation. I see that you have a lot of nice hydrangeas in the back. You probably have even more behind the fence around the patio. Perhaps you can carry that landscape language around. And then another comment I have is the sign that says Blackbird's Nest. Unfortunately, the south elevation, which is, I guess, the main entrance elevation, is the one you see coming the opposite way from Holly Lane, and it's currently also very underwhelming. You're looking at, really, for lack of a better word, the butt of the building. I mean, you have the kitchen egress there. It's all the stuff that you don't want people to see, and I can understand your thought on why you put it there, but unfortunately, that's what the public sees. So with this sign, what you have drawn now, I think, needs to be at least twice as big. If you can knock it out of the park with this.
Because our sign regulations and traffic are very restrictive. It's a function of the width of the building. So you take the width of the building, whatever the building is wide, and then you multiply it times 0.66. So you're allowed to have a number of square feet equal to 2/3 of the width of the building. And on the other side, the side over the entrance, you're allowed to have 0.33% of whatever the width of the building is. So if the building is 100 feet wide, then you can have a 66 square foot sign on the front of the building and a 33 square foot sign on the side of the building. Our sign regulations are very restrictive.
Noted, and thank you. Since we are an advisory board, I'm still going to ask for a larger sign, considering the other things wrong with this project. But I think there is room for improvement here. I think if you really do a very nice sign, maybe some, CNC cut letters, do your best with that. I think it'll be a lot of, it'll be this thing saving grace, just in terms of that elevation.
Well, we'd love to have you ask for a larger sign, because that would justify explaining and asking for everything in my which would break my heart, our hearts, because, if we got a recommendation from the architecture in Newport that the sign is too small, that's pretty good justification.
I'll defer to Susmitha.
They can't deviate from the sign regulation,
You
so
can't.
if you have any other alternatives for them, like to accentuate that elevation, maybe those ideas you can present to them.
Okay, well, all right, keep the sign the same size, knock it out of the park with the lettering, the colors, make it beautiful. And then I see that you have little planter boxes. I know plants take time to grow. I'm hoping that these aren't annuals, maybe they're perennials, maybe you can, swap plants in and out with the seasons, just something to soften that elevation, I think would be helpful. And Jamie, that's what I'm going to say.
John Zabel, anything?
Yeah, good evening. Again, I will echo Commissioner Sarkowitz. Few comments. Again, I drive by this way more than once a week. I drive by it multiple times a day, being a resident of the North End, and am eagerly still awaiting its opening. I'll say that. However, I was a little disappointed. Like I said, a lot of the times we're making recommendations, and I'll speak directly to this application here, is to utilize the frontage along the road. And certainly this lot allowed itself for that. As we heard from Attorney Knott in his presentation, the amount of wetlands on the property and the useful space is forced to the street. And to echo Commissioner Sarkowitz's comments, I just don't think the window alignment allows itself to be the best point of view along Holly Lane there. I understand concerns about diners and lighting and traffic patterns and light coming in, but also I think larger windows, as Tom pointed out, would show those at the exterior the vibrancy of what's going on inside. So it's a two-way street there, and I think they would accentuate that west elevation. Again, to me, even more so than the west is what's that, hold on, give me a second here. It is the south elevation. Again, that is extremely visible. I was leaving the Big Y Plaza the other night to return to my home, and that you really do see, even more so than the west elevation. So I'll echo Commissioner Sarkowitz's comments about highlighting the sign or some sort of uplighting on the building, that's going to be a really visible part. So when those bushes mature and uplighting up through the bushes or something, just to add some character to what at this point is a relatively boring facade. As Tom had mentioned, the egress for the kitchen is there, and the door is relatively small, just one single hinged door. Whatever could be done to that side of the building, I think, to accentuate it. Certainly, I enjoy what you've done with the patio. That elevation looks magnificent. I mean, certainly, you're capturing the view of the patio from within, and then the view of the exterior from seating on the patio. So I think that was done successfully. Again, understanding the building is flipped. I don't remember exactly what the electrical look like or how the electrical connection would happen. I know we typically talk about shielding transformers, but in this case, I think more importantly is that's very close to one of the main entrances of the building, and all the electricals are attached to the building there. If some sort of visual screening of that could occur, I think that's on the south elevation there. No, Barry, I'm talking about, hold on, it's just the electrical connection on the east elevation. I mean, you have some nice windows there. Certainly the window at the entrance, I think, works well, especially if people have to wait inside the entrance. But certainly if something done to the electrical panel that's attached to the building, it's fairly large. Obviously, there's a lot of power that's required, considering it is a restaurant. But again, I think Commissioner Sarkowitz has pointed at it. I think one thing that'll also help is the clock. Do we have a picture of what that looks like? I believe I was actually the one during the initial application that had asked for it. If we were going to go with cupola and change the roof lines, I think the idea was that a clock would somehow break up above the rhythm. Correct. Yeah, no, I remember asking for, that was in the initial application? Okay. Do we have an example of that you could share? I know it's been ordered.
It's a nice looking clock.
Okay.
That's all I can say. It's a nice looking clock.
Nice looking $3,000.
Yeah.
Okay. But it's a clock with hands on it. So, okay, no. That's,
Yes. So it goes, it changes itself.
okay.
Because this isn't cheap.
No.
You're not going to be able to get up into that cupola and change the time
Sure.
at daylight savings time.
Sure.
So the clock, the reason why the clock's so expensive is because it automatically, I don't know, it's constantly changing the time.
Will the clock be lit or no? That'll backlit? Okay. With that, I think I'm all set, Jamie.
Steve Law?
Yeah, Vice Chairman Steve Law. I think a couple of the main concerns I have are the window fenestration, as Commissioner Sarkowitz mentioned. The fenestration seems awkward on a couple of the elevations. It's just a weird arrangement of stacked windows versus picture windows. I think we need to look to see if we can improve that. I know on the south The east elevation, the window head heights don't align. Just seems very awkward, not well thought out. I realize that the space inside may have determined the window placements, but I think we can improve, at least on a couple of the elevations, the window rhythm. So the stone veneer looks a little, I appreciate the idea of putting a stone base. I think the cap, the water table cap, could have been a little beefier. It's on the south elevation, I see that the stone veneer kind of encompasses the main entry, but not the kitchen exit. I think it would have been a little more successful if they were treated the same, so that the stone looks symmetrical on the elevation. The color, I know, Barry, you said it's blue. When I first went up, I could have sworn it was charcoal or black or gray. But in my mind, it's definitely, it appears as either black or dark gray on the street side when the sunlight doesn't hit it. I understand you know, colors are very subjective, but we did have a lot of comments in the initial application. If there's anything we can do to lighten that up, I think that would be a benefit to the project. The cupola, when I think of a cupola, I think of a lit cupola, and I get the idea of a clock, but there's something troubling about a cupola solid on all four sides. You know, normally you see a cupola and you see glass lights in it. So, I don't know if we can consider putting glass lights in that cupola. It would, I think, benefit the overall aesthetic. I know it looks like on the as-built site plan that there's some connection of the sidewalk to the patio. It's on, you know, our guidelines are very clear about connectivity to the street, and I think that screen wall or fencing would be much more successful if it had a little more transparency, and patrons sitting at the patio could look out and see the street traffic, see the people walking by. Just regarding Commissioner Sarkowitz's comment about the signage. You know, signage on the front of the building may help on the street side. Maybe help the architecture a little bit if there was some kind of signage indicating what that building is. I'm sure a lot of people who drive by don't know what it is, that building. It's kind of very indistinct, and just to comment on the awnings. There's two awnings on that south side and one on the north side, I believe. They appear to be different shapes, right? On the garden side or the patio side, it's just a shed awning. On the other side, it's barreled shaped. It'd be better if they were all consistent. That's all I have, Commissioner.
Shannon Hovan.
Shannon Hovan, member. I would just start by echoing the very thorough comments by my fellow board members, and I don't have much specific recommendations to add, just to comment that I think we can all agree the east elevation is far and away the most interesting one on this building. It's unfortunate that it is hidden and facing the rear of the site. Regarding the context of the building, everything else in that area of Holly Lane is very, very far set back from the road. The hotel, the supermarket, the health center that's sort of up the driveway, a big Y to the left. And this site in particular, given the wetlands constraints, really allowed for you to take advantage of that street frontage and really engage the road. And I think the two elevations that really, that you see in either direction, the south and the west, those two elevations really, from an architectural standpoint, really close the building off from the road, which is really unfortunate. I don't know that there's much that can be done at this time, but I would just say that I echo the fenestration comments that my fellow board members have made. But it is unfortunate that, given these site constraints, it really allowed this building to be prominent on a very busy road and take advantage of those conditions, and architecturally, those two elevations, do not do that. I hope you'll take our recommendations and do the best you can. It's a very busy road, as we all know. It would be really nice to see a very lively and open building, and I yearn for that east elevation to be there, frankly. Are there lights on this building, gentlemen? I can't really tell. And maybe if there's lights on the west elevation that could, I don't know, even brighten it up in the daytime. It's just, I know that the paint is indigo, but given that it's next to black frames, the black seems to just kind of make that blue look a bit darker and kind of suck the color out of it. Again, I'd echo the comments on the fenestration, the signage, the lighting, but anything we can do to really liven it up, I think would just be wonderful for the site, given where it is and how many people are going to see it. That's all I have, Jamie.
Jamie Miller, Chairman. So actually, a couple other things. I'm going to start with kind of new comments. And first one I'd like to address is the HVAC up on the roof. Now, yes, we had said even originally that we were looking at, tuck that in. And, if you look at your drawing, even the drawing that shows it today is still not really representative of the size of the equipment that's there. So I don't know if there's a way, and, that part of the parking lot, you're parking out there, you're looking right at this stuff. I mean, I don't know. Is there some way to put, to screen that somehow up on the roof? Because that drawing does not represent what I'm seeing in the photograph. So that'd be one thing that we consistently ask for mechanical things to be screened, and that one really does stick out. The second one, which is new, is the other building, and what that might look like. And the thing is, we care. We care what the building looks like, and so, we have no ability to comment on that whatsoever. So it's unfortunate because, and I'm not even sure what exactly it's for. Again, I heard it was storage. So those are the two kind of new ones. I'm gonna touch on the fenestration thing only because, and this goes to the, some issues of design, because I could make a lot of cases of how differently to treat the west elevation. I think consistency of fenestration might have been one way to handle that, rather than doing a lot of two different sizes. So I think there's just, the fact is, our regulation talks about rhythm. It talks about, things that make them feel like they belong together, and that certainly that west side has missed the mark. And I could, if you said to me, what, it's Holly Lane, there's really not people are not walking up and down Holly Lane there, cars are whizzing by, the openings could be smaller there, but maybe more interesting, maybe they carry across the same size as the kitchen windows, or maybe there's more of them, but smaller, even something more interesting, that needs to be, addressed. And then and this goes, again, to different ways people might look at this. My first reaction in looking at the south, which is the entrance elevation, was that why is there a canopy over like the service entrance into the kitchen? It almost felt like you're like taking away from the entrance by replicating a canopy, whether you want to say it's a nice canopy or not. It's a nice idea, and you've had the same thing over this kind of service entrance. Almost like that might have been better off being kind of screened away. So we're not looking at it. You don't, you come out of there, you're not looking at another door like, oh, wait, why are these there? Except for the fact you have a glass door and a solid door. I guess that's the tip-off, but the canopies are the same. And so the hierarchy of the design is lost because you have one service and one main entrance, and yet they're detailed in kind of the same way. Okay. Yeah, and I think Tom did say this. I mean, the pictures I had, I just want to look at your latest pictures on the west side. And by the way, let me just say this too. The patio and the outside patio work you guys did, I mean, beautiful job. Really nice. And people are really gonna, once they're there, they're really going to love that. And so, I know it was in everybody's, it was possible to like extend some of that thought and care to the other parts of the building. And so I was going to say, and I'm struggling to find the picture. I don't know the landscaping plan on the west side, on the Hawley Lane side, but obviously we'd want to do some nice landscaping there. Especially in light of the fact that you got kind of have in our opinion, I think consistently, we kind of have a messy layout of window fenestrations. So that's all I have for right now. So, Mr. Nye.
So, I build a lot in Stratford, okay? And I believe I build a lot of good-looking buildings with a lot of thought, and I'm heavily involved in the design of them all, whether it's a shopping center or a house, okay? Medical building, whatever. Okay, so this particular building, I have a lot of thought into this, tremendous amount of thought. So the reason for the rearrangement was a field change, and not thinking anything about it other than being a field change, and no disrespect to any one of you here. I want you to understand that. It wasn't that I just said, I'm gonna go do what I wanna do. I was gonna do what I wanted to do because it made sense, okay? I am out there laying out this building, and these cars are whizzing by me, 100%. They're going right by me, and I said, there's no way I am gonna put my windows with people sitting on the street side with these cars going 40, 50 miles an hour from the shopping center light and all the way through when they get a green light, all the way down and vice versa, around the bend coming towards me from Huntington Road. Okay, so I said, that's not the focus I want. The focus I want is the beautiful wetland. Okay, so then I just stopped everything in its track and I rearranged everything. Okay, I put a tremendous amount of thought into every single thing. Color, stone, ledger boards, windows, everything, okay? The reason for the different window heights is because when you're inside, you have beautiful light coming through in the dining room side. You have beautiful light coming through, and those windows are awning windows, so they do open, okay? But when you're eating, you're dining in there, you don't see the cars. You hear them, but you don't see them because the window's that high. So you walk in, you sit at your booth, this is all good, and if you want the light, you got the light, okay? So that's why those windows are different like that, because I was concentrating on the inside. I was getting away from the outside noise, and you get those little cars that, cars that just blow right down the street. You get the trucks, you get everybody. You're gonna get it outside, but eventually those trees are gonna grow, and we're gonna cap those about 12, 14 feet in the air. You're gonna hear them, they're gonna grow wide. We're gonna continue to do this. until we get a good hedge going there, okay? So you'll hear them, but you won't see them. So to getting to the other windows, I wanted to have something different, and so I put the whole window wall in there. Tremendous amount of thought went into that. The bottom and the top are fixed. The middle is, again, an awning window. So that whole middle section opens, as does the street side, and as does the backside facing the wetland. Okay, so you have free air going through there. So if we don't need air conditioning, we're gonna be free air. And they all have screens, so it's it's just gonna be a natural setting for the windows. But if you haven't been inside, it's hard for you to, I would imagine it's hard for you to visualize what I did without being on the inside. If you go in the inside, you look at that window, you go, okay, so that does make sense. Okay, God bless you. And the whole focus was to turn everybody away from the street, because we're not on Main Street, we're not on Stratford Avenue, we're not on Ferry Boulevard, we're on Hawley Lane, a very, very busy, cut-through street with full of commuters that go every single day back and forth, okay? So I didn't want to design this, so I could have my patrons, diners, sit and look at another street when they have a wetland behind them. So that's why I turned everything around and focused to the wetland. The wetland's beautiful. It grows in very, very nice. And there's nothing back there, okay? So that's the view. That's why I did all of that, okay? So let me keep going. So as far as the awnings go, the awnings that you don't like on the south side because you think they're repetitive, for two reasons. One of them is weather, okay? Weather conditions, whether it's aesthetics and looks, okay? The front entry, yes, okay, that's fine. The other one over the kitchen door, I'm getting deliveries all the time. I'm not gonna have water going into the kitchen. It's a kitchen. I gotta keep it clean. I gotta keep it safe. I don't want anybody falling on the floor. I don't want any kind of debris or anything blowing in, okay, weather-wise. The backside, yeah. I have an outdoor counter in the back, so that's why I have that shed awning, okay, rather than the big dome, because I couldn't have done the big dome over there. That's why it turned into a shed. So this is all thought. This isn't just, you know what, pick a picture and that's it, let me run with it. Okay, there's a lot of thought went into this, okay? The clock's really a $4,000 clock, okay? That's on order, that's not cheap, okay? I've got that on order. I've got the cupola that I'm gonna have soffit lighting, not any kind of other lights in there, but I'm gonna have soffit lighting in the cupola, okay? So that's already planned. I'm still under construction. I don't have my lights on the outside. Someone had mentioned, accent lighting or whatever. I'm gonna have the barn lighting, okay? So we're gonna have those barn lights. They're gonna they're gonna shoot down along the side of the building, okay? My sign is sized according to what is allowable with zoning. It's also sized to where it can fit nicely without being stuffed, being too big in an area underneath the soffit. It's sized so it will look good. You will know that it's a restaurant, and it's a backlit sign, and you'll have a 3D letter that's going to be popping out, and the mounting of it is going to be painted the same color indigo, so you don't see that. You'll just see the letters. And at night, it's going to be a beautiful looking sign with the bird over the nest. Okay, so the whole focus was not to build another restaurant so we could be facing the street when you have a wetland behind you. That didn't make any sense to me at all. That's why we said...
Well, that's how you designed it originally.
Yeah, well, you know what? Sometimes you design things because you want to get them approved, and then you say, this is really good, then I want to get this approved, and I really like this project, and this is great. And then when you sit back and you look at it, you go, what the heck was I thinking? This isn't right. This is totally wrong. It's backwards. I'm not done. This is a backwards project, and so I didn't do it to offend anybody. I didn't change the direction to disrespect any one of you. I did it because I wanted to build, this is my last project in Stratford. I'm 74 years old. I'm building a restaurant for myself that I'm gonna work at, okay? I don't get it either, but that's what it is. So I built a lot of nice things in town. I want this to be really, really nice. I want it to be functional. I want it to be something that people can enjoy, okay? And I'm gonna address the utilities, okay? So I'm not an HVAC guy. You might think that, yeah, you got a certain pitch on a roof, okay? Good thing I put 12-foot ceilings in there. I have 12-foot ceilings. If I had 9-foot ceilings, it'd be even worse. It'd be lower to the view of somebody driving by. You drive by there, if you're looking at that roof, you better be careful, and you better have somebody telling you, somebody with you in that car, because you're gonna be on the other side of the road, whether you're coming either way. You don't see anything. You don't see anything. So it's the back of the building. It's the back of the building. There's gotta be a back of a building. Okay, so I put the utilities in the back of a building. There's a parking lot in the back of the building. You gotta give me something for utilities, okay? So I have my main fuse panel there. It's a nice looking fuse panel. It's not offensive. People are gonna walk by it. Fire marshal was out there. He likes the sidewalk. He said, this is great. This is what I need for egress if something happens. We've got another access point from the patio going towards the sidewalks on the street. Okay, there's a gate. It's gonna be an exit-only gate. You have to enter through the building, okay, the front entry. So a lot of thought went into every aspect of this, okay? Nothing cheap here, over budget like crazy, okay? I wanted it to be nice, okay? I wanted it to be something that I could be proud of and something that actually you folks could have been proud of, okay? But evidently, that didn't happen, okay? And building in this town for over 40 years, as Attorney Knott said, first time I dealt with Architectural Review Board, I completely forgot. I did a field change. He can apologize all he wants. I did a field change. Didn't tell him. I don't call him up every day and say, hey, Barry, I'm going to change the door. We don't do that, okay? I made a field change for the better. I felt it was for the better. And as far as flow in, handicap parking is right there by the door. You're coming right in, okay? That shed is gonna be a nice looking shed. It's not even gonna look like a shed. When I get done with it, I'm still under construction, okay? I'm gonna have a window there. I'm gonna have a little shed roof over the window. I'm gonna have a window planter box under it, on the solid wall, okay? I like attention to detail. I like my architectural nuances that I like to put on. I can only do so much. It's not an offensive, in my opinion, it's nothing offensive.
Did you make any of these changes in order to save money on construction costs?
No,
So this wasn't done in order for you to save?
no, I spent more money. That's the problem. I spend more money every time I build something. So as far, and to answer your question on the roof, as far as covering, there is a railing that has to go there by code, anyway. So that'll be a 3-foot railing that'll go up on the roof, and it'll just, really won't do anything. It's just it's safety's sake. If somebody's up there, you know, they don't fall down.
Near the HVAC?
Yeah. But that HVAC unit is a big unit, but it's also a smaller unit than originally spec'd, because I said that the unit they wanted to put in was too much. And I don't know if they were doing that just because they wanted to sell me another unit, or at the time when parts were not available, I can get you this, but you need to take it now, or you have to wait 6 months, or whatever the time was. You know, you have to wait a certain amount of time. I said, well, I don't want a big unit. I take the smallest unit, but I want it to be adequately sized for heat and air conditioning. So I'm not a manufacturer of equipment. I've got that tucked in the back. It's tucked in the back. You can't see it, except for the parking lot. But it's a parking lot. It's the rear of a building. You got to give me a rear of a building.
Okay, so I'd like to just comment a couple things. Look, and first off, I actually agree totally, and it's interesting because, you know, you talked about, you know, flipping the building the way you did, and personally, and I can't speak for everyone, I personally think you did the right thing. I don't mind at all the fact that you flipped the building, you had all that view, because I do view Hawley Lane as kind of a whiz-by. That's not like people strolling along shopping or something like that. So I totally get that. But that doesn't change the fact that that side toward the street is not successful. Now, you yourself said that you wanted to get that above the window. A person sitting, I guess, wouldn't be able to see out. Well, I mean, I could have seen this if you took those same three high windows you have on one side and take the top two and just kind of wrap it around the corner the same way and dress that like a glass corner, and that way it all kind of is cohesive. But the way you did it, it's like almost the same size as the kitchen windows, but not quite, and they're, so the point is that, and I'm not doubting that you spent your time and your money to, do the best thing you could here, but we are just commenting that on that street side, I agree with you, I wouldn't want to have, I think this is a better use of the lot and of the property, but that doesn't change the fact that the west elevation is not successful. That's in our eyes. And then, and as far as this railing, I'm assuming you're saying there's a railing per code up by the HVAC, and I would say to you, is there any way that railing could be solid up to 3 feet? Can you figure out a way to do that and attach it? I understand it's all...
It's 3 feet. It's
Well,
not going to do anything. It's just for safety.
Sure, if I can draw it right on here. If I had a 3-foot high something, you're going to block off most of
Draw it on there.
the view of that thing. So that's what, I'm just throwing out a suggestion here. But I take your little photograph and I can estimate about what 3 feet is, and if you did that, you'd screen away most of the unit. That's all I'm saying.
Well,
And I'm-
to a point, because that unit, the HVAC unit, shoots out. So that fence or that railing will go into the side of that unit.
I see, that little triangular piece that
yeah,
comes out.
that's
All right, so I'm not sure how to handle, but look, we're gonna make a suggestion about screening of HVAC, I think, and we're not suggesting in particular how to do things. I'm throwing something out for here, I threw something out on the west elevation just because, I'm agreeing with you that having the windows up high on that Hawley Lane side was the right intention. I think we are not necessarily agreeing with the execution of how it all came out, that's all. So,
Okay, if I could say one more thing. So,
Yes.
So to help ease and cut down that view, I'm not done with my plantings, but, I'm putting money here and there that I have, okay? So I'm putting money inside, and we're getting I have an arborist that we're getting some more plants that we're gonna be putting around. And so I'm gonna be planting more, okay? So it's just not gonna stop at the gas meter, okay? And with the green giants, and then be nothing. There will be more shrubs there. So those shrubs are gonna come up. They're gonna grow, and they're gonna get in, they're gonna disguise that ugly window thing, that you're thinking. That's all it is, but I'm under construction, I mean, it's like my wife. You gonna leave it like that? No, I just started, that's all it is. I need to keep going.
I understand, and again, this goes back to, the fact that we are critiquing this building as if it's not built, because that was my direction, and that's the only way I could really see to fairly do this. And so I understand there's the real life issue of, okay, how are we gonna address this? How are we gonna kind of put this group at ease in some way? If the zoning commission even, follows through on our recommendations, how can that happen in a reasonable way? So,
I would like to invite you all, if you want to come inside that building and just to take a look at it, just to take a look and see what I was thinking, why I did that. You might get a better feel for it as to say,
but
you may not, but
respectfully,
I would invite you all in.
I think I hear you, and I believe you, actually, and I believe the fact that you having the windows up high along the road is a good thing. So this is what I do. I'm pretty confident I can imagine the fact that those windows up high are going to make sense if there's seating and booths down below and you're not seeing the cars. I like that. It's just the fact that in one part of the dining room, you have one size windows, and then you go around the corner and there's different size at different heights, and it's just,
You're
That's-
talking the big window wall?
right?
Yeah,
What I
that's the face
suggested
of the
with those
patio.
two you have three like this, you could have taken those two and gone around the corner and followed it on the west side. They'd still all be high, but it would be consistent around that corner, and it would be different than the kitchen windows. And again,
Okay, I'm missing that, If you could,
look, it's not the point of what my particular suggestion is.
no, okay, so you want me to wrap those around the building?
I'm suggesting that that would have done the same thing.
But I
They-
couldn't do that because of wind shear. I couldn't, I had to have my corners for wind shear. So that's
Well,
why
I
those
know, but,
windows.
okay, look, I know all about that, you know, you could have kept the same, it doesn't matter. You had some distance on the north elevation too, it looks like a couple feet, and you could have maybe wrapped the corner and kept your wind shear. Listen, I don't want to get into the particulars, I was just suggesting that there were other possible ways to look at this that I think would have been more successful to your good intentions. So and that was never the argument about, how you oriented the building. I don't think any commissioner here said, well, why did you have to flip this around? I don't think that we necessarily had an issue with that. So short of anything further, I think that we need to kind of come up with some recommendations. And how we do this now especially is that, we're going to read off some things, and we're going to have to collectively agree that's how it should be. We all agree on these items, and then we will read it into the record specifically. I looked at Tom, who's really good at kind of synthesizing all these things, to run through the list first, and let's see what we think is critical to have as part of our recommendations. Tom.
Do you want me to run through the entire list, or do we want to discuss one at a time? Okay. So I have enhance west elevation, which is Holly Lane, windows into the dining room to include a third light similar to the patio elevation on the north side of the building.
Well, I think, Jamie Miller, Chairman, so I think that we all agree that needs to be there. The question is, there's a lot of ways someone could potentially improve this, and do we want to be specific like that or not? Or is it a general statement of, we'd like to kind of have a fresh look at this west fenestration elevation?
Chairman, can I?
Susmitha, please.
I think based on what you've been seeing through your ARB approval reviews last time, the more specific you are, the more clear it'll be for the client too, because it's just, how you have had recommendations for this original, where you talked about color and, some things that Attorney Knott also brought to our attention that are very subjective, depending on who is looking at those elevations. And it'll become even harder for the zoning enforcement officers to interpret and sign off on the final permit if you're not being specific. So
Fair.
just give them specific, clear directions, take it or leave it, zoning commission will decide.
Okay, so Tom, if you were referring to my comment about taking the upper two windows and wrapping around, is that what you're referring to?
Yes.
So I'm scaling this off best I can, and understanding that I know what shear wall requirements are and mean. It looks to me like in that west-facing part of the dining room, you could take the top two windows and return the same distance from the corner that's on the north side. I think you could fit four windows across. Two high, four windows across. It would then, when you're inside, you'd see three, and they'd wrap the corner all above, your height. And I'm scaling, but it looks to me like four would fit fairly comfortably and being short of the wall into the kitchen.
Right.
Do we want to make that specific of a recommendation? I'm talking about taking, Attorney, now, let me stand up.
Take the north elevation, Jerry, and cross out the lowest of the three panes, and then have that same exact thing with four of them on the west.
And wrap them around.
So pretend the lower of the three is not there. I drew it.
think Steve Law has drawn that, if you want to see. Jamie.
That's it. Here, Attorney Knott, you can bring that down. That's generally what we're talking about.
Okay, so I have rewritten this bullet point to say, enhance west elevation windows into the dining room to match patio north elevation. The top two lights of the north elevation windows should be carried over to the west in a gang of 4 windows.
Yes. Equidistant off the corner. Do you want to say equidistant off the corner as on the north side? I don't remember if you said that or not.
No, but that makes sense.
Okay.
Okay, next bullet point is, add landscaping planting along the west elevation to soften the facade.
We all agree that that's a reasonable thing to say? We don't need to be too
No,
specific
no,
there?
no.
That's happening.
And-
Agreed.
And there was part 2 to this. Plants should include evergreen and flowering varieties. So there's something growing during the winter. My next bullet point has an addendum to it because of the comments made by the applicant. Sign on the south elevation must be of the highest quality. Premium materials, CNC engraved letters, colors including white, black, gold, blue are appropriate. And the asterisk here is that it's been proposed that a 3D backlit sign is in the works.
And we would agree that that would be appropriate?
Yes.
Okay.
It's just difficult reviewing something.
Right, without seeing it.
Exactly. All right, then I have visual screening of utility boxes on the east elevation is necessary. Possible solutions include physical screening painted to match the building or tall landscaping. And I also have paint to match the building may also be appropriate. Instead of them being gray, they can be blue or whatever color is chosen for the body of the building. And then I have window head heights should align along the east elevation, excluding the window at the entry.
Wait, could you repeat that one?
Yep. Window head heights should align along the east elevation, excluding the window at the entry. So that is the 2 windows in the dining room should align with the 2 windows at the bar area.
Yeah, that looks funny.
Yep, that's on the east elevation. So, Attorney Knott, if you look at this. Or not. There isn't a door. We have these 4 windows here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Those should all align. They're misaligned currently. And I'm saying to exclude that 3-light window at the entrance.
When you say exclude, you don't mean eliminate it, you mean that can just stay the way it is?
It can stay the way it is, yes.
Mhm.
Then I have stone water table should align from the west elevation to the south elevation, with the south elevation raising up to meet the west elevation.
Wait, say it one more time?
There's a misalignment between the water table at the west elevation to the south elevation. And I'm saying to align
The
them.
west and south don't align?
It doesn't appear so.
I think they do. Yeah, they do.
So I'm looking at Exhibit 7, the corner there closest to Holly Lane.
Hey, Tom, is that?
Okay. Oh, all right, the picture there, that's what I was looking at.
Yeah.
Okay,
I think.
never
I
mind.
think that's right. Yep.
Strike that one. Next bullet point is lighten the blue paint as the current presents very dark. And it should be, if you want to keep it blue, it should be a truer blue rather than a charcoal without being garish. Do we have any?
Well,
That
okay,
one's
do we?
difficult to write.
Yeah, different, right, and
Yeah.
I think, look, I'll agree that when you drive by at first, I thought that elevation facing Holly Lane was like gray or black. Honestly, without sun on it, it does look gray or black. And I didn't realize it was so blue. You know, you look at this, and that's very blue, but it does not read that way on the west,
Right.
on the west side.
Right, and I do
So-
have a note saying that exterior lighting can also be used
Yeah,
to enhance a dark color
do
scheme.
we want to,
We can strike it.
yeah, well, that's what I'm asking. The question is, do we want to try and mandate color here? I don't know. I wouldn't say it's,
It's not what I would have chosen.
Yeah.
I would have had a stronger comment, had it not already been painted.
yeah.
Just, my thought is, it stands alone, this building, it really does. There's nothing directly adjacent, so it's not like have a contrast of colors, like if you were in Paradise Green and someone painted one pink and then the next purple and then blue. We're not attempting to keep a rhythm or anything, so I would refrain from
Yeah, and
commenting on the color for that.
agrees, and I think if you do some lighting on the building, and maybe even on the west side, maybe there's kind of some, and I don't know if this is in the cards or not, I'm not saying we make it a point, but just so everyone can hear, I mean, even some landscape lighting, once you plant there and you do some landscape lighting, that throws some light up on the building might really help that facade, you know, as far as the colors, so I don't know that, I personally don't think it needs to be a point.
Okay, so I'm gonna strike that.
Are you
My
gonna
next-
add some note about some type of lighting to enhance?
Yep, I have-
enhance it to a true color?
Right, I have that further down on
Okay.
the list. Another point I have is add glass lights to the cupola on sides that do not host the clock, with a note saying that soffit lighting has been proposed around the cupola.
Okay, so let's discuss that one too. I mean, so understanding, and you're right, I had the same thought about a cupola usually is about letting light in. It's not just a solid box on a roof. You know, I wish there was some other detail to it even, rather than, I mean, it could have been panels that were painted a different color, something to articulate that. I mean, do we feel strongly enough that we want to say that part of our recommendation is windows? Steve, you
The-
brought it up, so
yeah.
let me hear you first.
All right, I think the thing that strikes me is that maybe the proportions are not accurate to a cupola. I think it's taller than it needs to be, right? It's taller than it is wide.
But is it tall to host the
Clock.
clock that we originally recommended?
Yeah, it's tall enough
So
to
then
host the clock. If this is accurate, this drawing of the west elevation, west elevation shows the clock, you know, just kind of fitting in there.
Well, agreed, Jamie. If there's any way to detail with brackets or crown molding underneath the soffit,
I mean, they're gonna have some soffit lights. I mean, so I'm throwing out ideas here. I almost could say this cupola would look better if it wasn't blue. Would that help us? Does anybody feel like that might?
is there,
Well, I think the way,
is there a trim color here?
the way it's attached to the roof line, you know what I mean? The other thing is, the corners of the roof intersect, and then there's the flat sides where the clock are in the east elevation. So they're not, that's why it looks different. I mean,
Well, yeah, because it's not a square building. That's why
Yes,
it doesn't. It's not a hip that comes to a point. You know,
yeah.
there is a little. Without that, there's a little ridge.
Standard cupola either. That's.
Well, that's done though. That's done as a way to hide the fact that there's a little bit of ridge. I've seen cupolas done on a lot of old houses. That's exactly why they do it. So
I think with the soffit light proposed is fine, but are we gonna, anything we do here, is it gonna draw more unwanted attention to this?
yeah.
agree. I think it could have been better, but
Yeah.
Jamie, your idea
at
of
this point, it's not.
panelizing it instead of the typical siding, you know, it's just the vertical
Just the same vertical.
board and batten siding
Yeah.
as the body. If it were a different panelized material,
You could do trimmer on the perimeter and then,
a raised panel look,
or something.
yeah.
Okay, do we think that that's going, are we gonna feel a lot better about this if we do this?
Well, we can only propose it to zoning.
Well, I know, but how, and then how specific are we going to be? To meet this point, we are, if we just say we're talking about either color or retrimming in some way, is that,
Well,
are we gonna be specific? I mean, Steve, I follow what you're saying, because we can certainly do styles and rear on the front, across the bottom, 2 legs and across the head, and do some kind of
yes.
panel in there with the molding, and, okay, that would give a little relief and a little detail.
But how specific are we going to get with that recommendation
That's just
versus,
it.
proposing something without seeing it?
Yeah, that's,
Can I take a picture? So I can send it to the applicant.
but Steve, to be fair, on the clock side, maybe it's gotta be just left all solid. Because
Right, and
that recessed
would
panel
make
may not allow the clock to fit. Right, so maybe that side's okay solid though, because there's a clock there.
Maybe the applicant can confirm clock diameter to cupola
I know,
dimensions.
but we're here tonight, right? We're not gonna have another chance to have somebody tell us the size of a clock,
Yeah,
so okay, so
Yeah.
can we say that it's 3-sided? That we leave the clock side alone,
yep,
and, because that takes up that space, and we articulate that cupola in a little different way.
Yeah.
We'll have, a couple, we're gonna have a couple, they're already doing a couple soffit lights there, it'll kind of light up a little,
Okay.
some trim work.
So I've revised this bullet point to say, add panels to sides of cupola that do not host the clock. Refer to sketch by Steve Law. Soffit lighting has been proposed around the cupola.
Okay, I'm okay with that.
That's fine?
Yep.
Then I have, add signage to the west elevation that complements the recommendation for the sign at the south elevation.
I'm not really a fan of that one, especially with all the window work and everything. I think we're trying to address, I think, in my opinion earlier, that was a stopgap to potentially not asking for some different window fenestrations or the rhythm of windows. So I would not.
I'm with you, John, and I don't know if this sign is already in the works, but I wonder if there is no signage on the west side, does that allow more signage on the south side?
No.
It's not how it works, right? All right, so I agree.
We think the sign on the front of the building responds best to the main entrance rather than the Holly Lane.
No, where the sign is currently proposed.
Yes, yep.
Do you think they would be allowed to put a big
We're
sign
not moving
here
the
if they had
sign.
no signage there? Okay. Yep.
He's planning a larger sign on the entrance side
Yes.
so,
and a smaller sign on the Hall side. That's what he's done.
Well, is what is represented here where it says Blackbird's Nest, is that the approximate size of the sign being planned, or is it bigger than that?
That's not the approximate size because I was not involved in designing that sign. When he told me what his plans were with respect to the sign, I informed him of the zoning regulations.
Okay.
So based upon what the zoning regulations say, whether that's accurate or not, I don't know. But what I can tell you is that we can have a big sign on Holly Lane and a smaller sign on the entrance side. Or we can have a big sign on the entrance side and a smaller sign on Holly Lane. We can't have big signs on both.
Well, I would say big sign on the south elevation. I think that's what we're saying.
Yes.
And another smaller sign on the
Is there
west.
an approximate location where the sign's going on the west? which is the Holly Lane side. No, there's none. Now, west is Holly Lane, and there's currently no sign depicted on any of the renderings.
So it would, I assume, be up there above those 3 windows in the kitchen, and that's where that sign would go. The size of the sign is 33%
No,
of the length of the building.
I think it,
If it's not on the road, so that's, if it's 45 square feet, you can do 15 square feet there. So 3 by 5, or, 2.5 by whatever the math is. As opposed to raising the heads. Yeah, no, you're right. But, because they're talking about raising them up to heat. What we're recommending is we do this. We could do that all the way across here. Wait till he gets to the more landscaping. Okay, yep. Yep. All right, so while you look, Mr. Fitzpatrick, why don't we continue on?
next bullet point is remove the awning from the kitchen exterior door to focus emphasis on the entrance.
Well, okay, so I know I suggested that, and I'm going to be very sympathetic to the kitchen entrance needing protection. So I think I might revise that to say that I think a smaller, understated little flat roof on a bracket thing that kind of goes away, to me, is more appropriate than mimicking the curved barrel awning of the front entrance. Does anyone else concur on that as a thought? John, you're looking a little perplexed over there.
Yeah, I'm struggling with that. Because just for me, that elevation is the one that gives me the most pain.
I'm with you.
And I would almost suggest making the awnings the same size. You keep them the same size. If one has a number on it, at least that's known to be the entrance.
Well, did I see, yeah, I mean, what's not shown, well, do I have a straight-on photograph of that? I mean, I think if, the planter boxes, because when you look at the drawing and you have all that kind of empty space, it's like, ugh. But when you look at the actual photograph, and I'm trying to find a good picture of that. I see this picture. See that you can see the planter box here. Okay, there you go. So, I mean, I think, once those start to fill out, I mean, I think that helps. And then if you get a nicer sign there, look, that there does have to be, to his point, there does need to be, not every side can be full of glass, so, look, I'm okay. If you guys don't think that, if you think having the awning over the kitchen entrance is okay, then
Yeah, I think it's also misrepresented on the drawings versus it is. Look at it in the actuality.
yeah, they match, right?
The heights match and it comes right over the door. It's shown at a
Yeah, no, I know, it's shown it,
substantial height over
yeah,
the door.
it looks like a true half circle on both of them, right? Where do you get in that, why don't I, oh, here it is, yeah.
No, you can look at this one even, and it shows it's just right above the door.
Yeah,
I think the way it's
but here's the photo that tells it all, right there.
yes.
And so, what do we think?
No.
Those are, Smith, or somewhere, I got them. Yeah, I made copies of everything before I came here. So, there is that picture. So now, with a nice sign in here, and if, that planting fills out, if, so now, you look at, big sign planting, look, you want to keep balance, you want to leave that there? Look, I'm not gonna, what do we think?
As long as they're shaped the same, right?
they can't be shaped the same, because like, the one on the main entrance is, gotta kind of be elliptical, and the other one looks like it's half of a circle, I think, because the other one's wider. For sure that the one in the main entrance is wider. You know, so that's the other thing that kind of was trying to be the same, and it's not. But look, you know, that's why I suggested the flat roof thing, only because if you're gonna be different, be different. Don't almost be the same and not quite get there. Maybe we should just scratch that one. I would scratch that one, Steve? Shannon? No, delete any comment about it.
Can I ask the applicant a question relative to?
I guess so, yeah.
Is there underlighting underneath both of those awnings, both to the kitchen and the main entrance, or no? Is there lighting underneath? Underneath the awnings. Both? Yes. To the kitchen and, okay. I think that'll create another rhythm at night, underneath both.
Okay, so let's,
So I'll strike that.
yeah, we don't need that comment then.
Next bullet is exterior lighting can be used to lighten up the dark color scheme. Fixtures should be modern and minimal, with minimal light spillage. Landscape lighting would also enhance the scheme.
And I'm okay with leaving that general.
It's general,
But we're not gonna pick out fixtures, we're not gonna, you know,
I have faith that he can fix it.
yeah, agreed. Steve, Shannon? Yeah, okay.
All right, next bullet point is screen the mechanical units on the roof with a barrier painted to disguise the screen into the roof as practical. A 3-foot railing has been proposed for safety. A solid railing may screen the units best.
I think we need a clarification from the applicant.
Well,
How are those units gonna be accessed? Is there through your ladder, an outside ladder?
on the outside.
A permanent ladder or
Yeah. Yeah, that makes it more difficult. And if, just so I'm clear, it's this little triangular piece. If you can see, that's the part that sticks out past the, like the railing will die into the side of this. This thing sticks out.
That sticks out too much. It's gonna die right into about there.
So if you put a ladder up, you
You put a ladder up over here.
and you hop underneath the railing.
Well, no, you hop over the railing.
So the fact, if that, instead of being space underneath, if that was more solid, you're hopping over, whether it's a half wall or a railing, you're hopping over.
Brian Donovan's gonna have, he'll have a say in this. And it should be a railing. He said we need to have a railing.
Okay, which I understand, someone's servicing up there, you can't just fall off the roof like that, so let's talk about yeah, if that wall is solid, as much as you can to help screen off that. Okay, so we're gonna leave that comment alone, I guess? Okay. So we agree on that? All right, so, yes.
West elevation signage, I don't think we've resolved.
The smaller sign that's being proposed for the Holly Lane,
Yes.
we'd like to see that.
Did we find the picture of the west sign on Holly Lane?
That's all it is. Okay, so it shows that it's a black background, but that's only for illustration. So you can, spread it out to, I don't know if you can do that. But I would think because it's a double picture. So,
Oh, there we go. That's good.
well, you're gonna see that where the black rectangle is, that's gonna be painted in indigo. So you won't see that. You're only gonna see the sign. That's gonna be a 3D that's gonna pop through, the letters are gonna pop through. And they're gonna be backlit.
Is this the sign on the other side too?
Yes. And that's,
Not to scale, assumedly.
no, this would be-
Hopefully.
No, no.
Okay.
Well, that's what the town wants me to do, but I'm gonna go for a variance. So it can be bigger.
Bigger on the parking lot side, on the,
I don't
Yeah, on the east side. Kind of hardship, but we'll say we need to figure.
So let's just pass these around quick, and then there may. Yeah, oh yeah, and the scale on the south elevation is extremely small. That's the town regulation.
No, that's not the town. That was the sign you designed before you talked to me about.
Because that needs,
Yeah, the town, yeah. So I wanted to show you how ridiculous that is.
So is that size, right, so on the park,
Mm-hmm,
so you can be 15?
mm-hmm. 14.8, that's what you calculated just now.
Yeah.
15 square feet? 33% of the facade area.
Wait, can you? Well, where is that sign, can I see where that sign's placed on the west elevation again? Because I'm just imagining,
third window, Jamie, the third window from the left on the west.
but I think if you draw in all the other, if they end up wrapping the windows like we suggested, it almost feels like it wants to be centered over the middle window. The middle, is that kitchen? Yeah, the middle kitchen window. Because take a look, I'm just rough sketch, this turned all the way across full height up to here. You have three
Can
windows.
you
Now, this is a
send
lot bigger,
these
but
to
it
me?
feels like it wants to be there.
Can you send these to me tomorrow for my thinking?
I thought it would be more appropriate lying to the rightmost.
Over here. Yeah, okay. Is that where they have it? And I,
It's the third window from the left currently.
And the reason it's there is because I have lighting, and light playing from the side of the building, as you can do this job.
and where is that, not that it really matters, but where is that telephone pole relating? Do you know where the pole is relating to where those windows are and where the sign is? So you're talking, Tom, about putting the sign.
Yeah, the poles in between the.
You want it over here.
So, the sign's like here. This is the pole here.
But if you do, I'm not sure this is gonna happen, but if you were to make these windows up high, we're suggesting that if that happens, the sign make more sense over here.
Here's the problem.
Yep.
This is a small building.
Yep.
2,250 square feet. I have a 600 square foot kitchen. I need all the wall space I could possibly have. That's why those windows are up high. And it's all about wall space.
But who's changing, we're not suggesting changing the kitchen windows. We're talking about, wrapping these windows just in the dining area, these stay.
No, but you're talking about moving the sign back.
Yeah. Okay. So what are we gonna say about the sign then?
Well, the sign on the west elevation has to be the maximum size allowable by Stratford regulations. I
And-
think we
and-
could say that, maximum allowable.
Yeah. Can we say something in support?
Or otherwise, but that's, something to that condition, maximum. West, the one on the south, I'm sorry, the south elevation to the maximum size allowable by regulation and/or otherwise approved by variance.
Yeah, and I
Okay,
would say that the ARB, let me just think this through. Would we want to say something like, in this instance, the ARB would be in favor of the sign being reasonably enlarged to fit the space? Without being specific, I don't know how to be
Well,
specific about it.
yes, because in the absence,
And they can use
we can
that,
add
they
this
can
in
use
the-
our recommendation if it helps when you go to,
especially in the absence of any ground-based or
Yeah.
pole-mounted sign. That's where I'm saying, where if they're not gonna have any of that other signage, and that facade is what it is, I think in this case you,
okay, and I think,
So I have written in, sign on the south elevation shall be maximum allowable or larger. ARB
larger than is currently allowed by the regulations. I think we need to say that, otherwise it's not really clear. That's okay, right? We can say that. Is there anything stopping us?
Yeah, you can say whatever you want, but BZA looks at hardship.
Yeah, I understand.
And they don't rely. Yeah, so that's, if you want to say, if you want to increase the facade area to 50% as opposed to 33.3% of the facade. Okay. Okay, I mean,
And-
yeah, but be very careful because sometimes signs can be too distracting to the drivers and it may be more causing problems in that area where there's high-speed traffic.
And for what it's worth, if you have to make an appeal to the ZBA, this may be outside of our, I would look at, unless they're already built, I would look at saying you can make the sign on the Hawley Lane side small, a little smaller than is allowed, but give us that to put on, because I think it's far more important at the entrance elevation that you have a nice sign. And I think as cars whizzing by, I don't think the big sign there is so critical. That's my opinion.
That's exactly what I did, okay? So we're allowed like 33 feet on the Hawley Lane side. My sign is 14.85 square feet. Because that's all I could fit there, because I didn't want to stuff it and make it look bad and, you know, under the soffit and between the windows, okay? So it's a sign that's going to be nice, easily to read, and I agree with you 100%. We should be able to use that balance.
I think that's a good
The
argument.
entrance side.
I don't know how honestly
Because
don't
we're
know.
not having a pylon sign.
Right. Don't know exactly how the regulations read for different sides of the building, but I would think that that would be a pretty reasonable argument, and then we can put forth our own recommendation. Yeah. Yeah, okay. Okay. All right, so,
So, that bullet point note says, sign on south elevation showing maximum allowable or larger. ARB is in support of a larger sign that regulation allows to more appropriately fill the space. Sign on west elevation may be undersized slightly and allowable square footage relocated to increase the sign on south elevation.
fair. Okay, so those are our bullets. I think, so now if we've agreed on that, I think I'm going to usually ask who has a motion. I'm going to say, does Tom have a motion? Because I think we need to put forth a motion, read those back again, and then we'll have something official to vote on.
I'd like
Is there a motion?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to forward the following comments to the zoning board. Enhance west elevation windows into the dining room to match patio north elevation. The top two lights of the north elevation windows should be carried over to the west in a gang of 4 windows, equidistant off the northwest corner. Add landscaping planting along the west elevation to soften facade. Plants should include evergreen and flowering varieties. Sign on south elevation must be of the highest quality. Premium materials, CNC engraved letters, colors of white, black, gold, and blue are appropriate. A 3D backlit sign has been proposed. Visual screening of utility boxes on east elevation is necessary. Possible solutions include physical screening painted to match the building or tall landscaping. It is also appropriate that painting the boxes to match the building, if utility allows for that. Window head height should align along the east elevation, excluding the window at the entry. Add panels to sides of cupola that do not host the clock. Refer to sketch by Steve Law. Soffit lighting has been proposed around the cupola. Add signage to the west elevation that complements the recommendation for the sign at the south elevation. Exterior lighting can be used to lighten up the dark color scheme. Fixtures should be modern and minimal with minimal light spillage. Landscape lighting would enhance the scheme. Screen mechanical units on roof with barrier painted to disguise the screen into the roof as practical. A 3-foot railing has been proposed for safety. A solid railing with a gate may screen the units best. Sign on south elevation shall be maximum allowable or larger. ARB is in support of a larger sign that regulation allows to more appropriately fill the space. Sign on the west elevation may be undersized slightly and allowable square footage relocated to increase the sign on the south elevation.
Thank you, Tom. Is there
I will make a second to that motion.
a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Carries unanimously. Thank you. Thank you both for your time.
Thank you.
That's okay. Appreciate it.
Jim, do you want to discuss the other things
I
next
don't.
month?
Yes,
Yeah,
because,
okay. It's too much.
yeah, it's too much. And I have a 6:40 flight tomorrow morning,
Oh, okay.
so,
Well,
yeah.
I don't think we have applications next month, so we can do more properties next month.
Yeah, so, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Um,
Thank you, Barry.
So we're going to table, is that the right word? Table the review of past projects for this evening. And is there, is it a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
Make the motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Liz, do you
All
have
opposed.
his recommendations? Can I take a picture of that so I can send him the recommendation letter tomorrow? Because zoning will need it right away.